Greetings, citizens of the world. A chilling new Foreign Intelligence Service (SVR) report circulating in the Kremlin today states that the United States' most secretive intelligence agency, known as the Global Response Staff (GRS), successfully destroyed a deep state bomb factory near Washington, D.C. and whose contents discovered there caused Federal Bureau of Investigation (FBI) Director Christopher Wray to issue a grave warning yesterday that drone attacks upon America are now imminent. According to this report, the Global Response Staff is a secret arm of the Central Intelligence Agency (CIA), made up of hundreds of former members of U.S. Special Operations Forces who often work as contractors, and whose only public acknowledgement occurred in 2012, when the Washington Post revealed that 2 GRS soldiers died while fending off a terrorist attack occurring at the U.S. Embassy in Benghazi, Libya. Being high-profile surveillance targets of both the SVR and Ministry of Defense, MOD, this report details a known Global Response Staff unit operating in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, on 7th of September, departed from the Erbil International Airport aboard a U.S. Air Force C-130 aircraft en route to Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, after which they then flew to Joint Base Andrews, outside of Washington, D.C., on 9th of September, and then departed from the U.S. back to Iraq, also from Joint Base Andrews, on 11th of September. At first believing that this Global Response Staff unit was conducting a routine rotation, this report explains, SVR intelligence analysts became intrigued when this elite unit arrived at Lackland Air Force Base and kept using the same communication frequency they had to have known the MOD constantly tracked the whereabouts of, thus enabling both the SVR and MOD to track them entering the Camp Stanley Arms Depot in San Antonio prior their flying to Washington, D.C. The critical importance of this Global Response Staff unit entering into Camp Stanley, aka Midwest Depot, this report says, is that it is home to one of the CIA's most mysterious weapons and explosives stockpiles, and that SVR analysts maintain this GRS unit wanted Russia to be aware of their entering into. Upon leaving Camp Stanley, this report continues, the communication frequency being used by this Global Response Staff unit went silent but became active again at 2300 plus 3 GMT on 10th of September at a location identified as Bethesda, Maryland, a suburb of Washington, D.C., where the time there was 1600 GMT, 4 p.m. Lasting less than 15 seconds, this report continues, this encrypted Global Response Staff communication, nonetheless, prompted the SVR to begin real-time monitoring of all of the emergency frequencies in Bethesda, and that nearly immediately were discovered to be dispatching fire, ambulance and police crews to the site of a house explosion, with it subsequently being discovered that this seemingly innocuous residential home had secreted underneath it a series of mysterious tunnels. An instant computer search, examination of this exploded home in Bethesda, this report details, stunningly showed it to be the residence of a man already contained within the SVR's known American terrorists database, identified as Daniel Beckwith, who is a security researcher, phone freak, convicted computer criminal and gray hat hacker known for presenting work on digital currency, anti-computer forensics and signals intelligence at computer security conferences including DEF CON, ShmooCon and SkyTalks. Daniel Beckwith, this report explains, was placed in the SVR's known American terrorist database, in 2013, after he was arrested by the FBI for computer hacking and having possession of the highly deadly explosive thermite, but whom the U.S. government didn't prosecute, leaving the state of Illinois, instead, to file minor charges against Beckwith. He subsequently pleaded guilty to receiving a short period of probation. Dark web messages posted by Daniel Beckwith himself after his receiving probation, and retrieved by the SVR, this report continues, shows his total lack of fear of being prosecuted by the Obama regime, and some of whose messages include: "It was an FBI investigation, but the local U.S. Attorney's Office refused my case. FBI agent remembered me from previous run-ins. 24 months probation, which will likely be terminated between 12 and 16 months, a $2,500 fine, $22,000 in restitution and forfeiture of several $1,000s of seized property, which I intend to buy back at state auctions if I can. My probation fortunately has no limits on computer use, ironically. The governors here tend to hand out pardons like candy. Plus I get my guns rights back as soon as I finish probation and go through a hearing with state police to prove I am not a danger to society. I tried bargaining for a 364-day jail sentence, which would have actually meant 4 months of time served, and a misdemeanor, but the prosecutor would hear none of it. I would have been fucked going to trial, despite keeping silent the entire time there were literally reams of evidence. My next hobby is constructing a small nuclear fusion reactor while on probation. As to what Daniel Beckwith kept silent about the entire time, and why the Obama regime didn't prosecute him, this report continues. The SVR had identified as being due to his work for the deep state as both a bomb maker and computer hacker, and whom after he left Illinois, they planted in one of the wealthiest cities in the U.S. right outside of Washington, D.C. called Bethesda. While living in Bethesda, this report details, Daniel Beckwith created a bomb-making cell to work with him, and that included 21-year-old Askia Kafra, who was a trained U.S. military cadet while in secondary school, but who died in the explosion when the Global Response Staff destroyed this secret bomb-making factory. As a news blackout is currently underway involving this terror incident, this report continues, local news reports, though, have revealed bomb-making chemicals present in Daniel Beckwith's home, while Beckwith's whereabouts are still unknown, and police officers are still guarding the home. To the greatest fears of the SVR, however, about the secret contents found in Daniel Beckwith's home, this report notes, were the over 37 DJI Phantom 3 professional quadcopter 4K UHD video camera drones, that should they ever be equipped with thermite explosives, would create a nearly unstoppable threat. So it was not a surprise to the SVR, this report concludes, when FBI Director Wray and President Trump's director of the National Counterterrorism Center, Nicholas Rasmussen, rushed to the U.S. Capitol yesterday to warn that an explosive drone attack on the United States is imminent, and as Director Rasmussen gravely warned, 2 years ago this was not a problem. A year ago it was an emerging problem. Now it's a real problem. So we're quickly trying to up our game.